Well, let's finish that respiratory. Hollow organs will have epithelial linings, smooth muscle, and connective tissue outside. This is a typical sequence for the anatomy. Okay? What about in the respiratory system? Is there smooth muscle in the walls of the trachea? What's there? Cartilage, what kind? Hyaline. How many of them?
5 or 6.
20. 20 C-shaped cartilage rings. Does that ring a bell? That's the trachea. Okay, but as I get further into the respiratory system, the cartilage is replaced with smooth muscle. We mentioned this in the cartilage slide, and then we mentioned it in the smooth muscle slide. But I expect you to be able to build a body now, yeah? So you can build the system: stratified squamous, ciliated pseudostratified columnar, ciliated columnar, simple squamous. In the middle, hyaline cartilage support, smooth muscle support. Let's do the GI tract. What if I went into the esophagus? What kind of epithelial lining would be there? Stratified squamous. What does it turn into when I get into the stomach?
Non-ciliated.
Non-ciliated, simple columnar. And that would take me all the way to the bottom. And then it's going to change again. Back to stratified squamous. Okay. So what would you expect then to find in the walls of the GI tract?
The submucosa.
What is that?
The submucosa, which is, I can't think what it is.
Okay, good. So there's going to be connective tissue, an unusual connective tissue layer. We call it the submucosa. What kind of tissue is that? I've got some work to do, people. This should be just boom, boom, boom. You should be popping these off. What kind of tissue is that?
Dense irregular.
It is indeed. Well done. Dense irregular connective tissue. All right? As I move out of the submucosa, the next layer would be
Smooth muscle.
smooth muscle. What kind of smooth muscle? Single unit or multi-unit?
Multi.
All right, you have 50-50. Single, right. Single unit smooth muscle. Right. So I'm just trying to get you to realize, as you learn these things, you should be putting things together. I try in the question to help you put things together. Okay. If that scares you a little bit, I'm okay with that, because the fear motivation can help sharpen you. Yes? So you need to learn well. That's the point. I'm not trying to trick you. I'm trying to help you learn well. So, learn well.
The stuff about this, is that just for fun or is it?
That was just for fun, yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, what is this?
The lamina? Okay.
Yeah. Now, I would expect you to know what connective tissue actually is, right? So you describe, right? You describe a glycosaminoglycan to me? A bottle brush. And you give me anything more. A protein core attached to molecules like
Elastin in college.
no, a glycosaminoglycan, the substance of connective tissue matrix, yes? GAGs, a protein core with, you know, the stuff that you would take in supplements. Does that ring a bell?
Vitamin.
Protein.
Well, yeah, they are, but so you'll have some work to do. And then, of course, collagen, elastin, reticulin, those are important things as well. So, what other questions do you have? Yes.
For the epithelia and the connective tissue, all of them have a slide where it says like what their function is.
Yeah.
Is that more physiology?
It is, Chelsea. It's a good question. Yeah. It's an anatomy class. And it's difficult to look at the structure of something and not think about what it does. But I do try to pay special attention to not asking you functional things, especially when I've not talked about them. Yeah.
I don't remember when you talked about this, but I remember you mentioning like the AV shunts and some things like that in the capillary bed.
Yeah. Right. So when you learn blood vessel anatomy, then you should be able to tell the difference between an artery and a vein. Can you tell me what those are? What's the difference in an artery and a vein?
One's thicker.
Is the endothelium, is the tunica intima, the endothelium different? No, it's not different. What is it?
Smooth muscle.
The
arteries.
There's more
The inside lining.
simple squame.
Simple squamous, right? What about the tunica media, the middle layer?
Smooth muscle.
The smooth muscle, is it different? How so? Arteries have more,
Multiple.
right? So we call those resistance vessels. That's where all the blood pressure is. Okay, then the outside is connective tissue. We don't know much about that, except that you happen to know how the connective tissue is lining and covering and holding together all the blood vessels. If I sectioned through the connective tissue, on the outside of the vessel, what would it look like? Would it have collagen and elastin in it? Is there some kind of connective tissue that you know packages muscles and packages capillaries and organs? That's a realer connective tissue, that's right. Okay, now, when we made the transition from arteries to veins, we did that by way of a capillary, and I showed you a picture that showed you the smooth muscle and connective tissue is not there. It's just simple squamous epithelium. But then I said to you, this is one piece of, you could argue whether this is anatomy or physiology, but I wanted you to be aware that capillaries have a way of shunting blood. The anatomy that explains that is smooth muscle rubber bands that can seal off capillary beds, allowing the blood to be shunted to other areas of the body. And those are called precapillary sphincters. That's the name that I use, precapillary sphincters. And so the question would be fair, Landon, for me to say shunting of blood is due to what piece of anatomy? And the answer there would be a precapillary sphincter at the junction of arteries and capillary beds.
You put up a picture and it was a diagram of like a brain and it had all kinds of things labeled on it, but we really talked about the sulcus.
We did. The central sulcus.
Yes. So other than, like, we don't need to know all of the other little things on the picture.
What else do you know?
The hills.
What are those called?
Gyrus.
Okay. Gyrus or Gyri, plural? What else do you know?
The valleys are sulcus.
Did that already. That was one. Give me another one. On that picture, it's the top left-hand label.
Oh, the primary motor area.
Where's that?
It's right in front of, it's anterior to the central sulcus.
Beautiful. Exactly. What do you call that? You just told me. It's a gyrus. Do you have a name for it?
The precentral gyrus.
The precentral gyrus. Okay, so I got 3, 4, 5 there, yeah? Primary motor, precentral gyrus. Okay. Okay? Good.
Just making sure that.
Yeah, we'll fill in the rest of those blanks later. And what was that in context for? Why? Why did you learn that? Pathway for what? Motor. Somatic or autonomic? Somatic motor. That's good. I get that. Important language. Somatic motor, precentral gyres. Can you tell me on the precentral gyres what that looks like?
Oh.
There's a map there. What is that map?
It's like the body.
It's like a little person, yeah. The motor homunculus, right. There's a map of the body on the precentral gyres, that's right.
So you go through the somatic motor pathway?
Yeah. So, let's do it in excruciating detail so that you don't miss any of it, yeah? Let's do pyramidal neuron, cell body, of cerebral cortex in precentral gyrus. Myelinated axon passing through the brain, crossing to the other side at the pyramids of the medulla oblongata on the anterior side of the brainstem. No synapse yet. Myelinated axon continues in the lateral funiculus of the spinal cord, making its first synapse in the ventral horn of the spinal cord with a lower motor neuron, an LMN. That's cell 2. Axon of lower motor neuron, myelinated out through the ventral root into the spinal nerve, into a plexus for the upper and lower extremity, which would be cervical or brachial or lumbar or sacral, continuing to the muscle, where it makes a synapse at the neuromuscular junction, releasing a chemical called acetylcholine onto the sarcolemma. We got all the way there. That's the motor pathway.
Can you do the other one too in great detail?
I wrote it on the board.
Oh, okay. I got that.
You got that? Okay. I'll do it if y'all want to do that one too. I will. I mean, unless y'all want to do something else. Okay. Let's see if there are other questions first. Okay.
We don't have to know how to tell
I'm not gonna have any pictures of the test, like I did to in the lab test. But there are some things you should know in terms of describing the different white blood cells. Tell me what you know. Neutrophils.
Biload nucleus
Okay, biload,
or multi-load?
multi, at least bi. Normally multi-load, normally up to 5 different lobes normally. What about the cytoplasm?
Granular.
Granular. Is this helping? Neutrophil. What about eosinophil?
Yeah.
They're not granulated cytoplasm.
They do have a granulated cytoplasm.
They are granulated. What's another white blood cell that might look similar to an eosinophil? What? No,
Mass.
no.
Um,
They're big, huge white blood cells, and they both have these fetal-looking nuclei in them.
Monocytes.
Yeah, monocytes. But how would you tell a monocyte from an eosinophil? That'd be easy to tell.
Eosinophils are granulated, monocytes are not.
Yeah, that's fair. Good. How would you tell a basophil from a lymphocyte?
Basophils are granulated lymphocytes.
Okay, but it's really, you
And
really can't,
lymphocytes
when
have
you
that
look at a lymphocyte
membrane.
and a basophil, you really can't, if those are granules, you don't really know that. What's the difference, Taylor?
They have the outer membrane, the
Clear
lymphocyte.
part of the cytoplasm.
They have a clear sliver of cytoplasm in which one? In the lymphocyte, that's right. Okay, but there's something else that would have helped me. If I'm looking at white blood cells, really, 80 to 90% of them are either one of 2 varieties.
Lymphocytes.
What?
Monocytes or macrophage,
Neutrophil.
neutrophil.
Neutrophils, which make up how much of the total white cell count normally? Don't guess. Look. Neutrophils.
62.
What?
62.
Okay, so normally 2/3 of the white blood cells in any sample are neutrophils. What's the next most abundant white cell? What's the percentage on those? Okay, so if I look at a sample of blood and I see white blood cells, there's an 80-90% chance it's going to be a neutrophil or a lymphocyte. Yeah. So that helps narrow it down quickly. It's going to be most of the white cells in a sample. Yes, sir.
Do we have to memorize the rules of Mohs?
Yes. So the body regions, front of your face is 4.5, back 4.5. The thorax and abdomen total 18. So thorax would be 9, abdomen on the back, same way. How about your arms?
4.5.
4.5? 4.5. How about your legs?
9.
Okay, so there you go. So yes, you should know that. That is the rule of 9s.
For the spinal nerve, the roots of them, I think you pronounce it the rama communicantes. What does that do again?
So if you looked at a spinal section and you saw connectors from a ganglion that's part of a chain over to the spinal nerve, there would normally be two of them. And I would know, if I see that, I would know, at least within a regional sense, where in the spinal cord I am. Because I know that the communicating branches from the spinal nerve are communicating with a chain of ganglia that are the sympathetic nervous system. So I know in a section like that, that I am somewhere in the spinal cord between T1 and L2. So those are communicating branches to the sympathetic ganglia. Yeah? Now, let's take that one step further. I also know that in the anatomy of that connection, the preganglionic sympathetics are myelinated, and the postganglionic sympathetics are not myelinated. So one of those communicating branches is to the ganglion cell. One of them is away from. One of them will be called the white ramus. The other will be called the gray ramus. So that really is sympathetic nervous system anatomy 101 right there. The communicating branches with the sympathetic chain ganglia.
So ramus is just another word for?
Connector, yeah, a ramus is a connector there. It's interesting, like in the anatomy of the mandible has a body, right? And the mandible has a ramus. The pubic bone has a ramus. The ischium has a ramus. The next time you look at that, you think, oh, I see. These are the major pieces of the bone connecting it to important other spots. The ramus of the mandible connects the jaw to the skull.
You expect us to do on the spinal cord tracts cross section. It gives a couple of different ones that just the different parts of the brain, what they do. Like the lateral spinothalamic tract has it controls pain and temperature. Are we expected to?
Which one did we? Which one did we talk about there? Connecting to the ceiling. Yeah? Okay, so it's a good question for many of those slides, right? Even the one that you were mentioning to me with all those other labels on it. It's not time yet for that. This is your introduction. So you have learned one of many sensory pathways, and you have learned one of many motor pathways. So we will return to those pictures again this semester on more than one occasion as we pick up those pathways. And we'll just keep reviewing them, Dakota, over the whole semester. Just keep coming back to them. By the time you get to the end of anatomy, you should be going like, man, cut me a spinal cord, I'll tell you what's there.
You know where you talked about the squamous cell carcinoma?
Yeah.
You said that you could find it in other places of the body than in the skin.
Yeah.
Can you explain how and why?
Yeah, well, when you think, I just point that out, so you're thinking, if it's, you think if it's squamous cell carcinoma, it's skin cancer. And that's true, but you guys know that there are squamous epithelial cells all over the place. So that was really the point there. You could have a squamous cell carcinoma anywhere. There's squamous cell layers, especially if it's stratified. I think one of the interesting things there about the skin cancers is the melanoma makes good sense to me because of its location, and how dangerous it would be at metastasizing, because it's right on the basement membrane. But the other one that's on the basement membrane is the basal cell carcinoma, and it is the least dangerous. I find that intriguing, because the squamous cells normally develop in the spinosum. So, but they are considered to be the second most dangerous, just because of their ability to divide and get through the basement membrane.
So the ABCD role is important as well.
For melanoma, yeah, for the melanoma, asymmetry, order regularity, color, and diameter. Okay, well, you've got your work cut out for you.
Dr. Warren, what if we have more questions?
You can text me questions, or email me questions, or call me. I'll respond to your questions.
On the first day of class, I was in here, I heard the lecture that you talked about Hebrew for a while. Are you going to test this on any of that? Because I couldn't see it, I guess.
I will expect you to be able to write out and translate at least Genesis 1:1.
I'm serious. I didn't know if, I don't know, it's been a while.
Just say it with me. Bereshit bara et hashamayim v'haaretz.
That's my.
I'll send you a link.
Do you, that's like, everything.
I answered the question about why.